different. They don't give a damn about their neighbors. Okay, but see, if you don't stand up and start protecting your neighbors, you don't have a neighborhood because you won't even be living in your home. Okay, this is what they're doing. Part of this structure even goes to immigration. What Oregon state governor has done, other state governors have done around this country. This is the point that people do not comprehend what's really going on in this country. You guys want to sit in front of your TV and watch your football and baseball games and watch them do all this stuff. And then when the world, and it's not the world, this country, the world is going to be already doing it. Basically, they're fighting for food. And if you look at Korea and China, they serve human meat in the grocery stores, folks. This is reality. Soylent Green is real. You even got Soylent Green in the main market stores in the United States to date. Most of the food in your grocery store, 60% of the food in your grocery store ain't food. It's plastic or whatever other material. People don't do this. They figured, oh, my body can adapt to it. It's doing it. And then you wonder why you have the medical issues. You know, oh, my stomach exploded. Oh, I'm cramping up. I can't go to the bathroom. Well, it's hard to crap out plastic. You know, I mean, this is real. We are living this today. If you buy rice from Jamaica and China, it's rice. It's plastic. It's not rice. Look it up. Read on the packages. It even tells you the ingredients. It says more than 2 ingredients, rice and vitamin A. If it's more than that, you're eating plastic. See, the whole point is that people have got to read what's on the packages, what you're feeding yourself. I mean, potato chips, #1 heart attack killer in the country. Potato chips, most of the oil potato chips is cooked in is liquid plastic. You know, people go, oh, well, it doesn't bother me. Well, and then when you go to the bathroom and you're clogged up or you get stomach ache so bad, depends on which brand of potato chip. I mean, Granny Goose potato chips, and if you actually read the label on Granny Goose potato chips, it says, Granny Goose potato chips, #1 cause cancers on the package of the potato chips. You know, people grab stuff. They don't read labels. They just follow through. They think that because their parents or grandparents did it, it was okay. But see, times have really changed, folks. Really has changed. The FDA does not even do the job of protecting food resources anymore. They allow rice, and you can go on and type plastic rice. You can watch people cooking rice, and they're bouncing the rice off their counters and stuff. And it's supposed to be FDA approved. You know, so long as that the FDA is getting their funding, remember the FDA gets their funding not by the people technically, they get it by the dues that are paid to them by the corporations. So it is paying attention to how much these corporate guys get paid. And that's the one thing I put out dealing with that, and I'll put this on my sites again. Okay, dealing with, on mine and Dave's sites again, dealing with public law. Let me clarify this for people to read. Oh, I hate it when my computer sits there and does things on its own. Certified copy is what I've been passing out. And if you guys could get a printout of this, please pay the $5 and get it. Because all of a sudden, Scribe is charging $5 to get the printout of this stuff. I want to get a printout copy so I can make sure it's permanently out there. This was done May 2nd, 2012, not that long ago. All right, certified copy, HJR 192, Public Law 10, Chapter 48, Stat 48, 112.1, PDF file. And I'm putting this out, and this is the Bankruptcy Act, March 1933 to June 1934. This is a certified copy by Congress of the bankruptcy structure. And I've been sending it out to electricity companies. And they are freaking out because all of a sudden I got electricity companies telling me, well, we want our attorneys to call you, Ed, now because of what I served them on it. Okay? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the copy back on each one of our Facebook sites. And this is the point, and I've been passing this around all day, you know, because the main thing is on this issue, what's coming down the pike that people are not comprehending. With your electricity, it's nice when people can sit there and go, oh, I'm off the system. But solar, doesn't always work professionally. Solar has limited structure to be off the grid, which I would like to be off limited structure of the grid myself. But I haven't got to that point. And the other point is, on my creek bed, I wanted to put some wheels up there, so when it rained, that was able to generate water, electricity, I mean. And this is the one point that you've got to pay attention. This is reality. And if you don't start setting up for your children, you brought these children into this country. You are liable, not the government. Okay, this is the point. This is called liability. That's why your land is supposed to go to your children. When the parents leave you land, you're supposed to set up for your grandchildren. If your children are not responsible, grandparents need to write it up for the 5th generation. So that way their sons and daughters don't get it because of their personal greed, because most kids are always about me, and they don't care about family. They don't care about the structure of their neighbors or their own bloodline. They're not educated in this. We've been so diverted by Disney TV programs and stuff. We are not paying attention to the reality. That is the one thing. We are not paying attention to the reality. Lately I've been severely attacked on Facebook by attorneys and by some other people out of Florida playing their little games. And, it's like very disturbing when these things happen, because I get so disturbed when these people try to play games with us, on this, because I know what's going on. I sat there while you guys were out watching TV, going to school, whatever you did for the last 30 years. I was in the big boy House and Senate. Been in politics for 35 years. Been watching it when they pass these bills to take away your food rights. That way, if you don't follow this administrative rule, you go to a FEMA camp. Okay? They are doing this reality, folks. It's like I just talked to the tax collector here in my county. And it's like, we have some changes in the state of Oregon. I've been after them since 1992. Finally got the roadkill bill back passed. So if you kill something, a deer or an elk on the highway, you could take it home and eat it. Because before it was like you're supposed to let it rot and die and just rot on the road. I mean, and then people say, oh, that's good. I mean, people don't realize our food resources is limited. Logging has destroyed majority of the forest. If you look at the logging done in our country for the last 140 years, 65% of the actual country is gone. We have more today of what they would call desert sands and desert areas than we ever had in history. Most of this country was green. Even from the East Coast over, it was all green. Texas wasn't always a desert area. That's the point that people don't comprehend. Texas was not a desert area. Oh, I love this one. I wish I could save that one. Somebody put up the middle finger for Jerry Brown in California. I got to do that for Kate Brown up here. And so I just posted back on it. It's the certified copy, HJ. Now, the certified copy was done by the House and Senate. Okay, this is proving what's getting ready to come down the pike. Okay, and I posted that with that, and I suggest, I've done it, that, I emailed it to the boards, I emailed it to the entire House and Senate of Oregon, myself, putting this out, calling these thieves. So we serve these public servants. All right, we serve them because the states right now, which are Dave is going to be getting in here pretty soon, they want to start doing bankruptcy on the states. That means the federal employees have no retirement funds. The federal and state employees in city and county have no income. So, and these were bills that they passed so that way they could come to your home and steal your assets from your home, and they don't go to jail. You go to jail for defending your land. These bills are reality. This is what they passed so that way they can sit there and rape, rob, and pillage. This is true. But I'm going to let Dave get into that point. I mainly want to hit the food structure on your rice, because if you're not writing and protecting your lawful bloodline, figuring out if you're a citizen or not, and If you don't sit there and claim your citizenship, if you are a citizen from another country, me and Dave have that on our sites like Civil War, 1866 lawful bloodline Americans of 48 state USA. We have it under United States for America Republic, elected and public servants oversights. We have the structure that we serve Judge Scalia on lawful and legal structure. And if you are a legal citizen, that means from a foreign country that come in, because there is no such thing as naturalized. Read the dictionary term of naturalized. People hear this stuff and they don't read the stuff. They don't do the research. They don't comprehend what the words really mean. They just think naturalized. I'm here. No, that's why everybody's panicking with immigration. Now, if you just notice, Trump just won another one in the Supreme Court from the other judge that told him, oh, no. And I went through this a couple weeks ago when I went after a couple of the judges on these things, and I sent them the structure, and I even called them personally and nailed them on the constitutional law and their oath of office under administrative rules, and including with the British structure that they have an oath to as well. So I nailed them on it. Then all of a sudden the marshals start calling me up and going, hey, Ed, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just letting them know. Here's what the law says. And they're going, well, you're not, and then I lived the way two of them said, you're not threatening them, are you? And I said, no, I'm glad you said I'm not threatening them, no. Why would I threaten them? Well, you're not going to raise war. I said, how can I raise war or, go after the government? Because we the people are the government. That's called a moronic situation, if you want to claim it. That's called stupidity. And then the other point is that, you can't commit treason on yourself. That's the one point people need to realize. You cannot commit treason on yourself or raise war on yourself, because you do that, you lose. Who's going to be foolish enough to do something crazy like that? That's the point, that if we don't start working with each other, lawful and legal, and if you're illegal in this country, hit the border. We don't want you. We're not responsible for your grandchildren or your children, and don't give me this, well, you need to care for my child, and, my child. Sorry, you brought your child here. You did it to your child. Take responsibility. Be an adult. That's the one thing that we have to start teaching the children to be adults again instead of acting like children. Most of us have been programmed to be acting like children instead of adults. Most of the people, even my age, I'm 55, and people are older than me and younger than me. Most of us were put in front of a TV set as a babysitter. All right, so our knowledge came from stupidity off a program box or Disney. There was no real education, and if you ever know anything about Disney, they teach the kids, be careful of the cops. New Jersey just passed a bill in the state of New Jersey for the kids to go to classes in school to be programmed to deal with police officers. So that means they're being programmed right now that they have no rights. They do what the police officer tells them. If they don't do what the police officer tells them, they're liable and could be in trouble. This is reality. This is going on right now. This is not a joke. I got a video I'm putting up on our sites too. Progressive income tax, a tale of three brothers. I recommend you all watching this. This explains democracy at its finest. Because people say, we need to make sure everything's an equal playing field. Well, number one, folks, life is not equal. Okay? The only thing that you are entitled to in life, basically, when it comes down to, and I love this when people say, medical care is not covered in the Constitution. I hate to tell you, folks, the Constitution says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I think that would cover medical, because that was part of the original structure of the country, because until the 1980s and starting in the 1990s, prior to that, if you were lawful bloodline American, you were entitled 100% of medical coverage where we didn't pay for it. You didn't pay for it. And I remember this going through the House and Senate in the 80s and in the 90s, where people were doing this, and you guys probably remember this on the TV set and the news, where they had people going around and asking people, well, what do you think? Should people be allowed to get medical care if they're illegal in this country? If they have an emergency deal, shouldn't they have emergency surgery or something like that? Well, I could have the benefit of doubt to them on that point. But after they have the surgery, they should be on the next plane out of this country to their country, not where they're going in and getting housing and food stamps. You know, getting $50,000 for a business and a car, a brand new car. You know, they're not entitled to that. Those are our entitlement. Like Social Security is an entitlement. It is not a benefit. That is the one point that people don't get. Social Security is a contract that you write between the corporation of insurance. It is not a government agency, nor has it ever been a government agency. Clinton, March 3rd, 1997, signed the payee part of Social Security over to the Queen of England. That's treason. Not only that, it's all around the internet. Now they're talking about, oh, they found 14 bodies on the Clinton compound now. I'm just wondering, why the hell haven't these guys been arrested?
And where's the news coverage?
Yeah, where's the mainstream news coverage? You know? But see, that's called democracy, folks. People go, oh, democracy is good. Democracy says we're allowed to steal, rape, rob, and pillage, and we don't have to do anything about it. We can rape your children. We can kidnap and put them in sex trafficking rings, and you have no say over it. And this is real, folks. And you wonder why these people get away with it. Because you want them to. You allow it. You don't stand up and say, I've had enough. We got to change this. I mean, it's like, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dave here in a minute, but it's like I've been helping so many people out in cases the last few months. And it's really been pissing me off because some are standing up, have been, writing their structure and standing up, filing their structure in. Then I've got others that ain't even filing on the judges, ain't even filing on the attorneys. And then they want me to call me up and they go, oh, I need you to do this. And it's like, how come you haven't done this? Well, I haven't had time. Well, I don't have time now. You're wasting my life. I got severe medical issues. I got breathing issues. I'm on oxygen and nitroglycerin, and you're wasting my life. And you're not even following through, so don't ask me to care. You know, that's the point. If you're not following through, what you're supposed to follow through with, why are you asking people to care when you're not caring? You got to realize this, people. I got several cases I've been working on, and I'm just, a dozen of them just recently. I just threw a towel in. They haven't followed through with it, so I don't have time. It's wasting my life. And we got the issue right now we're putting together with the right of travel structure coming up. We've got the insurance stuff I'm putting together myself with some other people. We're working on this. We got some other structures that we are putting together on, trying to get this thing going on property taxes and electricity. Okay, and, we finally got some movement in the fishing departments, at least in our state. A couple other states are moving because, trust me, I call around the country, and I do talk to different people. People know who I am. But it's moving this stuff. And that's the whole point. And when your cities decide that they don't have money, they're going to come knocking on your door. If you don't get your filing and separate yourself, if you don't sit there and claim yourself, okay, and I mean claim yourself, own yourself, then everybody goes, oh, I have to file my UCC. Your UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. Own it. Okay? Say, we shouldn't be filing all this and running through the IRS tax structure. Because the IRS tax structure is a foreign country. I think it's called Puerto Rico where they're out of now. It's like we're supposed to have it, so we're supposed to be able to walk in and put an autograph here. You're supposed to be walking in and have your bloodline proven to know if you're lawful or legal. And there are agencies that are getting it now. They are putting some of this stuff together. They are instituting some of these programs in their corporation structure. All right, but it's taken people 50 years, 30, 40, 50 years to put this stuff together. You know, it's like people say, oh, the Constitution is not ours. Folks, the Constitution gives you right. The Bible brings you into living hell. Straightforward. All right, people says, oh, man can't give you right on a piece of paper. God gives me rights because it's a Bible. Folks, if you ever read the Bible, it's the most vicious, vile book. It talks about rape, robbing, and murdering. You know, I mean, you look at the real history of it, you know, and then people say, oh, history repeats itself. And that's the one thing that disturbs me, because you're telling your children that you're not responsible enough to make sure that they don't have to repeat what the forefathers lived. They can't live in freedom and harmony and have peace. So they're supposed to live in misery and be raped, robbed, and pillaged by the corporation system called elected and public servants. We're supposed to be adults. We're supposed to be able to pull us out of this stuff so we're not reliving it. You know, just because some book says this, why are we letting a book dictate to us instead of common reality? You know, sometimes I don't want to use the word common sense because some people don't have sense at all. But, I mean, you don't want to sit there and go out and drown yourself. That's, you only get one chance at life. So you get one chance with your children and stuff. And for those men and women that are homeschooling and doing this and taking the initiative, you know, people, you got to pat these men and women on the back. They are actually teaching their children. They're bringing this out so their children don't get it. And they have to argue and fight with their children because of TV commercials and the kids around them. And if you don't do Christmas, all of a sudden everybody's panicking. Oh, I didn't get Christmas presents, and you treated me badly because you didn't spoil and pamper me, and you didn't buy this toy and that toy for me because I didn't get that toy. My life was ruined because of you. And it's like, that's what always gets to me about people, you know. Just because you didn't get something in life, your life is not ruined. Might have saved you. You know, you got to step back and think back. But anyhow, I'm going to turn the floor over. I got a few more things I wanted to get into tonight, but I'm going to do that after Dave brings his point. After Dave brings his point, we'll open up the floor, and then we'll come back into some other stuff after that. You know, and we got questions that I know people have. We want to bring those out. And we want to get this stuff so we start working together, because once you start filing this, and I file it, and Dave files it, and you file it, and the next guy files it, the next woman files it, we're starting a trend here, because if we don't start the trend, there is no future. That's a guarantee. Disneyland does not exist. Remember, when you go down to Disneyland, electricity's off. There's no Disney. So, anyhow, Dave, the floor is yours. I think I've gone on a little too far on a couple of things, but, you know, I'm going to pass the floor to you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and points well taken, Ed. I've been listening to what is happening in the currency market. And if you have not been paying attention to what is happening to the IMF or within the IMF, the currency that they are now coming up with out of thin air, which is where the paper money came from, thin air, you need to comprehend the fact that the Federal Reserve is up to another sham legal process. How do you create a new currency other than out of thin air? Did it exist prior to? No. So the sham legal process is we will fake and fool everyone into believing that, this new currency is going to be better than the old counterfeit money. But it's still ran by the same counterfeiters. So if we have money backed by no value, which is a Federal Reserve note, a debt instrument. A note is a debt instrument. How do you pay debt with debt? I've preached on this before. But I'm bringing this to your attention because there is a new currency supposedly coming into play because of the previous counterfeiting ring that the United States and the Federal Reserve banks, the world banks, have been forcing upon the entire world. China and Russia now refusing to take U.S. dollars, and that will be followed by several other countries, I'm sure, because it has no value. It's not backed by gold, silver, uranium, or anything. And the world has now caught on to the fraud scheme. They say, oh, but you, America, have the obligation to pay it. Oh, really? Show me that in the Constitution, where it says that you will create a counterfeit money and I will be forced to back it with my slave labor. Slavery was abolished, if I remember correctly. So how can you create a commodity and then tell me, oh, gee, you're gonna back it by your slave labor? No, ain't gonna happen. I do not consent. And government is only with the consent of we the people. So what we have now are incompetents running our governments. They think that there's no end. Obama set the stage. I will borrow my way out of bankruptcy. Really? How's that working for you? How many states now have declared bankruptcy? Chicago or Illinois, the latest to declare bankruptcy. Willing to give it up as a state and divide the state in sections with each of the surrounding states taking part in it, adopting it as their territory, their land. If you're not following Illinois, people, you better start looking at it. How do the incompetents in the legislature, once they realize the state is going in debt, that they can't pull the plug and stop the drain? Congress is no exception. These incompetents don't think 1 minute of how much money they put you in debt. They couldn't care less. It isn't their money. It isn't their property. It isn't anything. I'm sick and tired of it. The American people are not their friggin' slaves. It's a fraud scheme. It's called bond, birth bond, and birth certificate bond. We created legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government in the Constitution for the United States of America. That legislative, executive, and judicial branch does not exist, cannot function, cannot operate without a elected, appointed, hired public servant. They are not the government, never have been the government, never will be the government. They are our employees. They have no right to issue a birth bond or any other commodity for their own profit. And America, you better wake up. It's ridiculous. So they go in and they continue to go in debt, into debt, into debt, into debt, deeper, 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 deeper. How many of us are allowed to do that? When we run out of money in our budget, what happens? Oh, everything comes to a stop, right? Well, you explain to me how these incompetent jackasses in Washington, D.C. and the states can continue to run a debt, a deficit. Who's given the authority for these people to borrow money when they're in debt and haven't paid it back? The banksters. So I'm a little bit ticked off with what's going on. We the people are not their friggin' commodity slaves. That's why HJR 192, Public Law 10, Chapter 48, Stat 112, and Public Law 73-10, 40 Stat 411 came into existence as a result of the Bankruptcy Act. We are to discharge our debt through them. We signed for it. We're not allowed to create debt for the government. So why is the government allowed to create debt for us that is beyond our means of paying it back? Our legislators are truly assholes. I'm fed up. And I don't care if it's Bill Clinton or Franklin Delano Roosevelt who created this mess. They're all guilty of treason against the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guys.
Go ahead.
No, I just said hi, guys. It's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
So
I agree with David.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm Ronald here in Oregon, and I too agree with David.
Okay.
If you cannot, as a legislator,
And I'm grateful for the voice like David's that still sounds out when mine's too tired and beat down to give a shit. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I'm gonna lock the conference.
And I'm no longer in the gun.
The conference has been locked.
So
Got out
David
a
can
week ago
continue.
Friday.
All participants are muted, and they can unmute themselves. The conference has been unlocked. All participants are muted.
Go ahead, Dave. Finish up what you're saying, then we'll get into questions and answers here in about 10 minutes.
Okay. What the most important thing for us to remember is this: that if our paid representatives ran the government like we had to run our home budgets, this sham legal process of indebtedness would never have occurred. It's their own incompetence that allowed it to happen. And when fraud is involved like it has been in what they have done to us, it's criminal fraud. It's intentional fraud. Fraud by trickery is intentional fraud. And that's what the international bankers have done. That's what our Congress has done. That's what our presidents have done. That's what our governors are doing and our state treasurers are doing. So let's understand it once and for all.
Comprehend.
You better get your act together, or we will file charges on you. With that, I'm going to open it up to Q&A.
So anybody would like to speak, the floor is yours, or the board should be open right now, so go ahead.
Q&A session has started.
First one say may I, please, or may I. Go ahead.
Ed, I did Q&A so they can get into a line, basically. *61 will get you into the lineup on that.
Yeah, thank you. So whoever wants to speak first, go ahead. But nobody wants to speak now?
This is Daniel.
Go ahead, Daniel. Floor is yours.
Okay. March 3rd, 1997, Clinton turned over Social Security to, what was that, OE?
Clinton turned over the payee structure of Social Security to the Queen of England.
Right. What was the OE, the executive order?
Can't remember the exact number. Hang on a minute. It was something 1966, something 1966. Or no, was it? No, 1666.
1666, Ed?
Yeah, I'll have to pull it up here in a minute. I do have that
I believe that's what you said before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, whenever I start writing papers on this stuff, I need to know what I'm talking about, and I've been having a heck of a time with my computer. Yahoo locked me out now. But anyway, what statute prohibits them from asking for the Social Security number?
That is Title 42-408, Section A, Section D.
Just a minute. Slow down. I'm writing this down.
Okay.
42 what?
42 USC.
Yeah.
Section 408.
408.
Paragraph D.
A.
Oh, is it A? Sorry. Thank you for the correction, Dave.
Paragraph what?
A. 8.
408. Paragraph what?
A is an apple.
Alpha. Okay. And
8 as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, 8. Okay. Okay, like octopus. Okay. And now the House Joint Resolution 192, Chapter 47. What was the code that went with that?
I think you got it wrong. It's Public Law 10.
Public Law 10.
Chapter 48.
Okay.
48 Stat.
48 Stat.
112.
Okay. Public Law 10. Okay. Yeah, because I can't work with this stuff if I don't know where to research it.
Okay. The other part of that is Public Law 73-10.
7310. Okay.
40 Stat 411.
Yeah, and then
411. Okay.
And then the other one you could type in is Congressional Record.
Okay. CR.
House December.
Okay. CR. December.
House December.
House. Okay. HOUSE.
Yep. December 13th, 1932. This is before the bankruptcy, and it explains how it was staged ahead of time.
And it's page 400. It reads like this: page 400, Congressional Record, House, December 13th, 1932.
Okay.
If you read down through that page, you will find where the United States was not represented by a lawful representative of the United States government. The representative to that conference was appointed by the Federal Reserve. and they were outnumbered 8-1.
Okay. Page 404 is that. Okay, 1932. Okay, and let's see, what else was I going to ask you? I'm here to pick your brain tonight. Okay, court recordings in West Virginia seems to be a nullity. They don't seem to exist. And the court reporter is controlled by the judge under 5174 of the West Virginia Code. She can only enter what the judge wants her to enter. And he's not really a judge, he's an executive administrator. But, okay, I wanted to ask you, term limits for judges. This guy's been here 30 years, one bond of office, one oath of office, never filed a second oath of office. He's been in office for 30 years with one bond, and the corporation's picked up his bond ever since.
Well, my question is this: when this is an elected office,
this is an elected office, yes.
By laws of the state.
By the statutes of the state, yes.
A judge would be elected to office for a term of
6 years.
And does it say extended thereof?
No, it doesn't say extended thereof. He's reelected every time.
Yeah. So basically, what the charter has said is that you will be elected for a term of this long, and then you're out of office.
Okay.
You only get one chance at office. That's it. You don't get 30 years in it.
There was one thing Ed and I had also found was that once you have taken an oath, you are no longer allowed to run for public office.
Well, he took an oath of office one time 30 years ago.
Somebody else replaces him.
That's right. That's done.
Okay, well, he's been reelected.
He can't be reelected because elections didn't start until after the Civil War. There was no such thing as elections prior.
Right. Well, actually, voting started, yeah.
At the Civil War, yes. Prior to that, there was no such thing as voting.
Right. There was elections prior, but you had to be an elector. You had to be a freeholder in order to do that. You had to pay.
But that only the elections that you were able to vote on, and this was not clarified to the general public, is that you could vote to, for the fire department to get new equipment or something like that. It wasn't for the public for having as servants. See, that's the one thing. We didn't have all this stuff, and then they started voting all these things in where we could put all these new departments in. We could put all these new structures in. That's not the way it was designed and set up for.
Well, most of those departments were generated by the state, the corporate state. And they had no constitutional, there is no constitutional existence. They're just generated by the corporate state, their corporate offices, and corporate divisions.
I mean, the office of the Attorney General is a prime example of that. Why are we the people voting on the office of Attorney General when he don't represent us?
That's true. He represents the state.
He represents a corporation.
Yes. And he certainly will throw you under the train if he gets a chance in favor of the corporation. Another question is you said something the other day when I was talking to you privately about each state had a provision that you did not have to have a driver's license. Well, I'm aware of Chicago County versus the city of Chicago, the Supreme Court rulings, but I wasn't aware that the states had a provision in their codes for this.
What I stated to you was that the United States Supreme Court ruled we have a right to travel, and it applies to the states.
Okay. That was 1922, Chicago County versus City of Chicago.
But actually, there's more than that, too.
Well, I know there's several more, but that was the first one I know of.
Each state has it. Even you could type in Janet Reno, the rights to travel. Janet Reno even has it.
Okay.
But you can also get it from the court by Google right to travel. It's all over the internet.
Okay. Okay. And so next thing I need to do here is to prosecute these people for conspiracy to interfere with justice.
Yes.
And misprision of felony. But I can't seem to find a corporate officer that's willing to take charges against the corporation.
Office of Inspector General.
I've tried that.
And he ignores you?
He ignored it, yes.
Now you need to go to the president and demand his removal.
Okay. Yeah, they
or the governor of the state, but I think those Office of Inspector Generals, they exist in both state and federal levels of government. So, first of all, if it's within your state, I would go to the governor and demand the guy's removal for obstruction and honest service fraud, breach of public trust. And you file those charges against him with the governor of the state.
Okay, that's for to file those charges against the Inspector General.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have proof of the conspiracy to interfere with justice, but it got downgraded by the judges to just a little slander.
Yeah.
Well, when you slander somebody before a judge to influence his decision-making process, I believe that's called conspiracy to interfere with justice. And they didn't go anywhere. Anyway, I've taken enough of the people's time. And thank you for the info. I needed that. And I'll open the floor back up to somebody else.
Thank you for your questions.
If I may.
Yep.
Go ahead, May.
All right. Let me make myself live over here. This is Toasted. I'm going to read some stuff here. It's called Martial Law Flag. Persistent to USC, Chapter 1, 2, 3, Executive Order 10834, August 21st, 1959. 24 RF 68.
You're breaking up, Toasted.
There might not be anything I can do about that. But
Well, I don't know if you were too far away from your mic or what.
testing, is that good?
That's better.
All right. A military flag that resembles the regular flag of the United States, except that it has a yellow fringe border on 3 sides. The President of the United States designates this deviation from the regular flag by executive order, and his capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the military, the placing of a fringe on national flag is demolition of the flag and arrangement of the stars on the Union are matters of deal, not controlled by statute, but within the discretion, of the President as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy. 34 Ops ATTY Gen 83. The law of the flag requires that the law under which contracts entered into will be governed. See Rustus versus People. Any courtroom that displays such a flag behind the judge is a military courtroom, which is operating under military law and not constitutional law or common law or civil law or statute law restrictions. Note added, this court is thereby receiving public funds under false and fraudulent pretenses and is committing treason against the Constitution under the 16th Amendment, American Section 177. Whereas 1 and 2, the American flag, which has gold fringe, mutilates the flag and carries a 1-year prison term for any judge that flies it behind their bench. This is confirmed by the authority of Title 36, Section 176G. The gold fringe is a fourth color and perpetrated represents color of military law, jurisdiction, and when placed on the Title 4 U.S.C. Section 1 and 2 flag, mutilates the flag and suspends the Constitution referred to Title 18 U.S.C. Section 242. See Black's Law Dictionary. And I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. I yield the floor.
It also goes on to say that it's part of the Attorney General's manual. It also says in there that it falls under military regulation. Therefore, a gold fringe flag flying in a church, in a public building, a library, a schoolhouse, carries a 1-year prison term.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. Here's the best part. If I may, real quick. Oh, man. Ooh, I'm on to something. Okay. Here you go. I want to know, live, on air, why a gold fringe flag is flying in my bank's lobby. I yield.
In your what lobby?
Oh, let me answer that, Ed.
Go ahead.
If you remember correctly, that if we go back to 1863, when Lincoln declared martial law. Martial law means the military is in charge of the government. Not the president, not the Congress, nobody but the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Because when they suspend the Constitution through martial law, the legislative, executive, and judicial branches must yield to, the military. Are you people catching on to what I'm saying? The military have been in charge of our government since Lincoln.
A caller that's been waiting for a while that has...
Go ahead, caller.
970, it's all you.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, everybody. This is Angie in Colorado. I did talk to Michelle just the other day. I'm not sure. Michelle, are you still here? Is she not here?
She may be muted.
I talked to Ed just for a minute today. I did run into town today and faxed my notice of final judgment on my federal case, and I followed directions that I was, instructions given, and I also mailed certified with return receipt for my claim. So aside from sending that in, does anybody have any ideas on what are my next steps as far as saving my poor little girl?
What you need to do now is wait on the action of the court.
Okay. See,
and
the 21...
that is sometimes hard to do, but
yeah.
you have to give them time to respond to you. They have 10 days.
Okay.
If they fail to act within that 10 days, then you can file some more paperwork to get a declaratory judgment.
Okay. See, they were all served the summons about March 21st of this year, and they were given the 21 days plus that day of service to respond. It says always, of course, default judgment will be made against you. Well, here we're well outside of the 21 days. So I've done this, and now wait, and not sure I could wait. That's fine. What would, saying they go ahead and...
Have you filed a notice of dishonor on them?
No, I have not. On the federal court? If they have failed to respond to you, you need to send a notice of dishonor to them, to your defendants, and to the court. Oh, okay.
Then your next thing would be a motion for default judgment. Or
I can barely hear you, hon. Motion
or a
for?
declaratory judgment, however you want to do it. And once you get that declaratory judgment, then you go down to the clerk's office and you get your writs, which is the biggest. Whenever somebody gets a judgment in court, they say, "Oh, I won." No, you haven't won because you screwed up by not going down to the clerk's office and getting your writs of execution, which means you can lien them up for whatever until they pay you what they owe you.
Okay. So notice of dishonor, and the dishonor is regarding the defendants who failed to reply, correct?
Mm-hmm. And if they all did not respond to the summons as required, it's an automatic default on all parts.
Well, they didn't. Nobody said a peep.
Okay, now you file your notice of dishonor.
And what will I include in this notice of what? I guess why would I do a notice of?
You failed to answer summons.
Right.
But you have to file it.
Rebut the affidavit.
Yeah, that's what my notice of for final judgment was.
Yep.
Where did I put that? Because they failed. So that's why I was told to do that. So I did.
Are you still on here?
What's that, hon?
Michelle muted?
It's Q&A.
Michelle, are you here?
Yeah, I couldn't get through. I was okay, thanks. Angela, the notice of final judgment is what David is describing to you. When I told you to file your notice for a final judgment, that notice of final judgment was the order. That's why I said an order.
And an order.
Remember, I told you it's a notice for final judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did not respond to the summons within the 21 frame period. So because of the 21 days, they are now in contempt of court under the default notice.
Right.
Okay. So you have to say this is a notice for final judgment on and an order. In other words, you're moving this court forward. You're telling the judge, I'm moving this court forward for a final judgment for punitive damages as to them being in contempt of court.
Yes, I did that.
Okay. Well, then you have to wait. You can't rush. You have to give them the 10 days to respond to the judge has to respond to your notice as final judgment.
Okay, I did
regarding the punitive damages as moving the court forward and an order for punitive damages. So you have to wait for that judge to respond to your request on moving the court forward for punitive damages for them being in contempt of court for not responding to the summons.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What David was describing to you is what that means what I was telling you to do. Now, there's different methods. In other words, you can file different time frames as like a notice of default, which is what David was describing.
Okay.
But you've already done all that. So what you do is you're moving.
Yeah.
Right. So all you're doing now is moving that court forward for punitive damages, what you have already outlined prior. See, David didn't know doesn't know everything that you've done.
Right. Yeah.
So now you have to wait. Now here's what happens. If the judge does not respond within the 10-day frame, now you have to file another order for a final judgment for punitive damages against you, and you have to hold the judge now for acting as being biased, because the judge has to respond to your request on the final judgment. And that final judgment is remember I was telling you it's regarding a motion to dismiss. See, you want to claim motion to dismiss on final judgment for punitive damages, because you don't have to go to court anymore to prove your innocence. It's already been done by their negligence, because now they're in contempt of court. So if the judge does not respond to your notice of your notice of final judgment for punitive damages, like I was telling you, then you can hold her now in contempt of court, which is a violation under Rule 60 and Rule 59. That's why I wanted you to look those up. So you would know, because that would fall under judicial misconduct.
See, I didn't find that under 59 and 60. I found a 54.
No, Rule 60 and Rule 59 has to do with the timing, meaning that as to what you're doing. That pertains to the summons, because they did not respond within the 21 days to the summons. They have to respond within 21 days of that summons. If they do not, it's an automatic win on your part, and you file for a motion to dismiss for punitive damages rendered upon you because the defendant did not show up as you being the plaintiff. It's an automatic win on your part.
I'm a little confused about what you just said about motion to dismiss. What am I trying to do?
A motion to dismiss means that either you win or they win. That's why it's called a motion to dismiss. Once a motion to dismiss a claim goes forward, and the judge will address an order as to that motion to dismiss. For instance, if the plaintiff won on that motion to dismiss, that's in your favor. Right now, you have control of the court. You are the plaintiff. Okay? They are in default because they didn't answer to the summons. Okay, so you have to. So when you file for a final judgment, when you move the court forward for a final judgment, you are requesting for a dismissal for punitive damages, and you're ordering the judge for a final judgment. That's why it's called a final judgment. That's why it's called a notice of a filed. I'm sorry, pardon?
What are they dismissing?
They're dismissing the judge is dismissing their
the judge is dismissing the other party's circumstances and granting you yours. So what's the circumstances of the? Hang on a minute, Michelle, because we've got to get her the information so she can sit down and read it. And I'm on the same page with you and Michelle, what you're doing. This is the point that, let me clarify for the general public. We do not give legal advice at all. We are not attorneys or lawyers. We are men and women who have studied this stuff. We are giving opinions. Opinions are like diapers, and politicians need to be changed regularly. But it's up to you to be responsible adults. Now, what Michelle is explaining on this point is procedure on the circumstances of how to do it, because if we don't educate each other on these procedures, so this way, when you have an issue or somebody else has an issue, to go through it, to do it correctly. And Michelle, hang on, I'll give the floor back to you in a minute on this floor, because you're doing a good job on this, Michelle. And I know, Andrew, you're not quite getting some of it. That's why I like to get the procedure book to you so you can start reading it. And I think you still have that on your wall, don't you, Michelle?
I do. So, Angela, if you, on Facebook, I have posted the link that you can download.
Can you post that on new.org and trackers right now, so that way we can get it posted around for some other people? Post it to me, and I'll get it posted around, so that way you're not bombarded with stuff when we get other people out there that are, getting it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and it is on Facebook. So absolutely. So, Angela, on Facebook, on my wall and on David's wall and Ed's wall on Facebook is the Federal Rules Procedures booklet. Now, the one that I put on on Facebook is the edition 2012, and the reason why that is because it's easy to understand and comprehend the program. Now, if there's anybody that downloads that program on their computer and you're not quite sure understanding it, all you have to do is send us a message and reach out to one of us, and we can explain to you how to read it.
Yeah, Michelle, you want to use the word comprehending? We want to get away from the legal points of view.
I thought I did.
No, you were saying understanding.
Oh, I did? I thought I said comprehend. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, I thought I did.
No, but we got to do this correcting each other. Because...
Thank you for, I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. So I must have been thinking in my mind what I didn't say.
Hey, we all have been there, and that's the point, that it's not jumping on each other. See, that is the main point, working with each other, because once we start doing this and we clarify it, and it really helps when we got men and women out there who are actually homeschooling their kids and others around them. This is the point, by doing what we would call correct English. This is how things are going to change.
Let me explain the motion to dismiss. Whenever there is a final judgment, see, here's what they want you to do. They want you to answer to them. When you answer to them, automatically that puts the plaintiff in charge. And you can, by the way, you can order your defendant to answer to you. And if the defendant's dumb enough to answer, remember, you have control of the court. The plaintiff always has control. You don't have to prove your case in court. You're making your defendant prove you wrong. There's a big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have control, you're ordering your defendant to answer to you. So on a motion to dismiss, that means it's a win-win. That's the final say on a motion to dismiss. So whenever someone says motion to dismiss, that means that judge, if it's the defendant or the plaintiff, either side comes out and says, I am now filing for a motion to dismiss. And that can either go against the plaintiff or it can go against the defendant. That's the final scenario. So let's say you're the plaintiff, which you have control, Angela, right now of the court, because they are in contempt of court. When anybody is in contempt of court, that is a win-win, automatic win scenario, okay, under status pertaining to you winning. Okay, you're going to win because they are already in violations of default.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go back and read the procedures, what a default means.
Give a general idea for everybody who's listening, because people need to start comprehending some of this stuff, because the one way, once you start comprehending, this is what helps you to put your instruments together, because remember, this is work that you have to do, and if you don't do it and comprehend, it's like what I was saying to somebody earlier today. You have to read your case. You have to know your case. I've helped people out, but I don't have a problem doing that. But if you don't read what you're putting into the courts, or with somebody else has given you a suggestion on. And if you do not comprehend that, you know, that's where you're going to be torn up in court and lose. Okay, you have to realize that if you don't start paying attention to this structure, this is your butt. And if you are claiming to be an adult, you have to be an adult. And a judge will tell you, well, it's not my responsibility to know the law for you. Well, technically, it is his employment to do that. But they get away with that because they're allowed to do the legally toe-twisting dance that people do not comprehend what's really going on. That's the frustration. You know, go ahead, Michelle, and explain that point so that way she gets it and other listeners really start getting this.
Okay, a notice of default means that you are in the wrong, and you have to prove otherwise. So, for instance, if you are a victim to, let's say, someone's taken $200 from you, and you're accusing your defendant as stealing that money, that is like a notice of default. And that defendant now has to come back and prove otherwise. So let's say the defendant comes back and says, well, Mrs. James is accusing me of $200,000 as being in default, as wrongdoing. But Mrs. Smith doesn't show any evidence in the records that I actually gave her that $200. So now it's up to the plaintiff to come back and prove to the court, as to the judge, that what Mrs. D is saying against Mrs. Smith. So now Mrs. Smith has to prove to the judge that Mrs. D is lying. So that's how the notice of default works. You have to prove wrongdoing, or the other word too is the cause. Okay, as to the cause, what is the cause? What is the harm?
Hang on a minute, Michelle. Dave was saying something. Go ahead, Dave.
Sure, David.
That's another thing. It's called show cause.
There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you, David. So you have to show cause how you were harmed under that default. Now, if the judge rules against you as the notice of default, that means you're losing that court. That means that the judge is taking the other side over you. That's why it's called a notice of default. Now, you're the plaintiff. I'm going to use you, Angela, at your case. Now, Angela, you filed a claim against the judges for wrongdoing, okay, as to showing cause. And in your showing your cause, you were proving to the court, okay, as to the judge, because you're the plaintiff, that they committed theft upon you by taking your wrong case, by the defendant as to the one judge who was doing you wrong in court by you losing your child. So now what you did is you were a smart cookie. What you did is you jumped the gun. Normally you file removal into a federal court under violations of your due process rights to get the court to overturn the other court's ruling. But you jumped the gun because you went ahead and you filed an actual complaint against the judges, which was a smart move. Now, I'm surprised, and that's we were talking on the phone before, that's why I was surprised that they hadn't responded to the court, at least to your summons. So they didn't do that. Now they're in contempt of court by the seat of their pants. Now that is what's called now you have evidence upon the court, okay, regarding your summons.
Right.
That has nothing to do with your prior case now, because now they are in default. That's what's called a notice of default. And what you have to do now is you have to inform the judge, and that is where the motion to dismiss comes from. Because what you're doing is you're asking for a final judgment. Okay? Now, what I want to bring to your attention, because this is really important, anybody orders you to answer to the plaintiff, that means what they're trying to do is put you in a predicament where they can move for a final judgment. Because the sooner you file for a final judgment, that means that they can move. The next move is going to be a motion to dismiss. That's why they ask you to answer to them. Well, you don't ever answer to them. You always object. I object to the order. Now, not always are you ordered to answer to somebody. But just so you know, I was. And I objected right off the bat. And then I made it known that that was an order judge to answer to somebody. You have to answer. Well, guess what? You answer, but you object to the answer. In other words, and then after you come back with your objection to the judge's order by ordering you to answer to the defendant or plaintiff, you come back and then you ask for a final judgment, just like I am now moving due to the fact now have punitive damage, and therefore the court is in contempt of court. Why? Now I'm talking about your case, because they did not answer to the summons. Mm-hmm. They messed up, Angela, big time. So right now you have control of the court, and it has nothing to do.
Hang on a minute, Michelle. I want to throw in a thought here. This is what we're trying to get you to comprehend, this fact of reality, because everybody wants to argue, okay? And the point is, it's not an argument. This is not an argument. This is knowing how it works, okay? Comprehending the circumstances of how it works compared to what one is led to believe, okay? Because you have to know how the courts work. It's your responsibility. And then everybody goes, well, and I agree, because I didn't get a lot of this knowledge until later in life myself. Okay, but some of it I did get taught in school when I went to school, because in California we used to get taught the separation of lawful and legal. That was Constitution law compared to democracy, or what they call the legal system. And remember, anybody talks legalese to you, you don't want to talk legalese, because that's called the Roman Catholic Church. And you want to argue with somebody that's going to teach you about the Bible that puts people in enslavement? And the Bible does put people in enslavement. You have to realize the Bible truly does put people in enslavement. The Bible is not there to protect you, like I said earlier. And this is where people were attacking me on the internet and stuff, because I don't support the Bible, and and they're telling me, well, because I don't do this, that, and the other thing, God's going to come for me, or I'm going to go to hell. And I keep telling them, hey, if I go to hell, remember, if I go to hell, I'm going there to control it. Okay? I'm going to be the guy who's going to run it.
So here's what you have to do, Angela.
Go ahead, finish up that, and then we want to move on what else we got going on here, too. So finish up on that.
So, Angela, here's what you have to do. Because you have control, remember, you have control. You don't have to prove it anymore, okay, because of their mistake. Yeah. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to give them the 10 days wait period. In the meantime, you're going to work on your paperwork before that. You never wait till the last minute to work on your paperwork. Now, here's the good news. If the judge does not respond within the 10 days or 21 days of your request, now you can move your case to the appeals court.
Mm-hmm.
So the next move is going to be you're now moving your case to the appeals court, and it's all in your favor, and the appeals court is going to grant your wish because the lower court is not responding, so therefore they're in contempt of court. Now, when you move forward with your final judgment with the appeals court, Okay, you're going to tell the appeals court they are in contempt of court, and I now request for your opinion as to the outcome for the final judgment. Now, remember, the final judgment is on the motion to dismiss.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Michelle, let's get the first phase done. Once you get to that,
well, I kind of want to give her an idea because that is her next phase.
No, I know that. I think she's got the idea, but see, she's got to start working on putting that evidence and that information together. Not only that, Angela, you have to file on the judge for violation of his oath of office, and including, it's called statutory fraud, because he's getting paid for a position, he's not honoring his oath of servitude.
Not to mention that maritime flag. Man.
And that's the one thing that, it's like I was arguing with this guy on the internet trying to tell me about the flag, and it's in China and all these other stuff, and I went off on the guy, we argued back and forth, and I finally got tired of it. And it's like, people got to realize that when I did the research on the guy, he was an attorney out of Alaska. And then this other guy in Florida doing the stuff that he was posting on my wall and saying different things and then telling me how I had conversation with them, which I didn't. And it's really frustrating, that people go out and do this stuff and bring stuff up to people, and they don't like it when the truth starts coming out. So, and that's where you're at right now, Ange, is that you're bringing out the truth, but the other point is that you know what you went through. You know what was said. You know what was in the paperwork. And this is one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention very strongly. You write the circumstances, and you always want to tape record when you go to court. And they say, oh, you can't tape record. Well, the other point is you have to make sure that you always, when you go into court, is this a court of record? And if this is not a court of record, then this could be administrative in this court, or there could be no conversations in this court, because if it's not a court of record, hearsay is not admissible. And it's learning how to bring the words in correct form when you talk. Because if it's not a court of record, that means everything in that court is inadmissible. We're supposed to be having a Title III court in this country, and they dropped that through the Constitution as they're claiming. We do have it, but that's the point, is that we, the people, have to get that enforced back. It's up to us to start pushing these judges back to their employment, or to file on them to go to jail. Remember, you cannot have compassion for any public employee. They don't have compassion for you. They don't care about you. Oh, they're going to come up and be sweet and side to you because they want to rape, rob, and pillage your money. And remember, they do that very well, and they go through training classes to do that, psychological training classes to rape, rob, and pillage. They do. They actually go to training classes and seminars on this, and they actually get paid to do that. And that's what pisses me off, because as far as I'm concerned, back in the 70s, you used to have to pay for your own seminars and stuff, and that's how, if you passed that grade and you moved up a grade in the pay scale, you got increased in your pay. Instead of today, the Democrats have just totally destroyed our system. They move people up and they give them all this training, and then they protect them, and that's the one thing. It's like going on with the gay and lesbian issue. What are we arguing about that? What people do in their own damn bedroom is their business, and, we don't need to have parades of this stuff, that is destroying our country. We don't need to have this in the front page newspapers and all this stuff, or even, hello? Was somebody trying to talk over me? I was trying to say something here.
Yeah, we got some background noise, Ed.
Okay. So, anyhow, let's get that muted, the background noise. But anyhow, or just mute the board right now.
I already took care of it.
Mute the board right now, and then that way we'll get it opened back up here after I'm done. So, but anyhow, it's like the gay and lesbian issues. I mean, we got the issues going on with the cities and counties because they're getting ready. Because in North Korea, there is no money right now. All the banks went to a payee card system. Okay, China is getting ready to do the same thing, and everybody's going, oh, we're supposed to have this new currency, and we're getting new money. Wake up, people. If you don't protect what you have right now today, it's going to be a card system where you walk by a smart meter and fiber optics, they turn your credit card off. They want to get away from paper money, so that way, if there is no paper money, they can force a chip on you. All right, you already have a chip called on your credit card. You have a chip in your driver's license. You have a chip in most of the products you actually buy from the grocery store that you don't realize that when you buy stuff in the grocery store, it has a chip. So they track that product leaving the store through the satellite structures to your home, how you use the product. This is real. This has been going on for 15 years already. They already do that because the little dinky chips are only worth a quarter penny a piece. They put it in the machines. They put it in the structure. You get them in your credit card. You get them in the circumstances around you. And they're doing this. You know, when they were putting fiber optics in this county, 25 or 20, was that 07, 97, 96, fiber optics, they can read credit cards. They can read the structure around you. They can read your cell phone number. And not only have satellite on you, and they can't get satellite, they can go through fiber optics to track you. All right, you're already tracked. That's why I won't have a cell phone. You know, I mean, you know, everybody goes, "Oh, Ed, you should have a cell phone." I don't want a tracking device. You know, that's why I have an old truck. I don't want a tracking device. I don't want a truck that I can travel or a covered wagon. Let me correct my statement. Covered wagon that I could travel down the road and somebody could hit a switch and kill the engine off electronics. You know, I mean, when they started going to electronics in the cars, man, I knew that was a problem because I was a mechanic, and it's so simple to rebuild a distributor and stuff. And that, now with electronics, if you don't have a comprehension of the wiring system itself and how it works, you're not going to go anywhere. The old distributors, you could even jerry-rig an old distributor and you could still get it going. But today in electronics, you can't. And they're doing this right now. This is not a joke. They're already setting up. I mean, Illinois is setting up for bankruptcy. The state of Oregon just is passing corporation taxes to raise $2.8 billion straight across the board. They even have one bill on the Senate floor in the state of Oregon to raise property taxes 100% straight across the board. They are trying this in every state, including California. California just put an excise tax on all seafood in the state of California, $1 per pound, a quarter for each quarter pound. So each quarter pound that you get from the ocean is called a quarter pound tax. And this is going on. And if you eat the food coming out of the ocean, Fukushima, I mean, they got the fish washing up, dying, the whales are washing up, the dolphins are washing up, the food resources going. They predict in probably 4 years we won't have food in the ocean. This is reality. We are living this. We've got the Fukushima leaking still. We have the one up in Washington. Brain fart right now. That's leaking, and they're saying it's starting to leak into the Columbia River. So that leaks in the Columbia River. Now that not only destroys the food resources, that goes down to recreation where people fish and go in the water there. So now you're being radiated, fried with the water system. I mean, this is real what we're living across the country. So, you know, and people are sitting there not paying attention and they just want to ignore it. This is what the one thing is that you're bringing children into this world like this. It's your responsibility. It's not like the British attitude is, I raised them, they're 18, they're on their own. That's the way the British are. British have been that way for centuries.
If I may.
Of course, they used to throw them out when they were 15. You know, and England is 16 still is the age to put your kid on the street in England. So, I mean, you know, this is the point. People got to realize what the real world is about compared to what they think democracy has shoved down their throat and the mind control that has been happening.
If I may, real quick.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
What are you trying to bring in?
Oh, I'm trying to bring in that that radiation in the Pacific Ocean, and it won't.
That's
be
what I was talking about. So what do you want to bring in over me?
Wait. It won't be too long before it hits the Atlantic Ocean and all the other oceans. You know what?
Atlantic has already been doing that because they've already had 3 radiation spills over there, and that started back in 78.
40 years. We're facing extinction if we do not do something now. And
it's less than that. Wake up. It's less than that. That's why I told people, start growing food, collect rainwater. If you don't start claiming territory, you're not going to have anything. Period. You're not going to be able to collect rainwater. You're not going to grow food. There's cities right now that are telling people, if you don't have your rainwater or your food gardens installed in the next 3 years, when they put these new administration rules in, and they get those administrative rules in, and you put a garden in after that, you're going to jail. The city's going to take your land. They've already put this out, and it's already public. It's already public knowledge. This is what people are not comprehending. This stuff is not new. It's been there. The House and Senate and these senators have been putting this stuff out since, I don't know, it's called Clinton. When Clinton passed the children's bill, when the children's bill went through, when they sat there and allowed DHS to steal children so that way they could take children away for profits. That was Bill and Hillary Clinton that made that law. And that's the truth. It was Bill and Hillary Clinton. I don't comprehend how come people are sitting there praising Bill and Hillary Clinton. I'm wondering what kind of drugs these people are really on. And the other point is that these people who are taking psychological drugs, they should not be in office. They shouldn't be employed. They shouldn't be out in the public. You know, oh shit, my computer's going nuts again. You know, it's like these people shouldn't have these rights. And the other point, it ain't 40 years. They were saying this part after World War II, 40 years. See, that's the point. People don't read real history. When they started putting nuclear structure in place, before Fukushima was even built and installed, the scientists on the West Coast, and including in China, stated if there was ever a nuclear accident, the world would be destroyed and the food resources would be gone. That was even done 3 years before they broke the first dirt to build Fukushima. It was public knowledge. This is not nothing new. It's like Lars Larson on his talk show. We need more nuclear plants. We need more nuclear stuff. Well, of course, Lars doesn't care about anybody because he's not even from this country. He was born in Taiwan. His parents were born here, but he was born over in Taiwan. So he is what I would call an honorary citizen because he was not born on this soil. He can't be lawful. So he's legal, you know. But these guys are doing this for the stocks and bonds. They're done. They don't care. You know, I mean, come on. What is it? 3 Island, when that blew up, that's right next to the river and the ocean. And Atlantic salmon over on the East Coast, Atlantic salmon was built 100% by Sletch River salmon here in Oregon. Atlantic salmon was 100% completely fished out in 1970. They had no fish, no salmon on the East Coast. Then they started putting the implant of the Sletch River salmon in 1972. That's where they got their salmon runs back. Because salmon could adapt to any elevation, any surroundings, and they could adapt. They say that they go by the scent of the water of where they respond. So where they respond, that's their sense of the water to find the water because somehow they have the knowledge of going back and forth for the scent of the water. And this is the point. We have to start realizing that this goes on. This is real. Because remember, Title 7, 136, Section D, you're an animal. That's why where Dave keeps going, these jackasses. He's got a point here. You know, the jackasses are running into court. Come on. It's like, have you ever tried to ride a jackass? To get a jackass doing something? So he's got a valid point. And this is the point that, you know, these stuff is not new, what they're doing. This stuff has been going on for 40 years already. We've already been warned about this stuff. You know, I mean, you know, it's like some of the stuff I've been speaking about for 30 years myself. You know, I've had people go, how the hell do you know this stuff, Ed? And it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell do you people not know this? I figured everybody knew this stuff. And I'm realizing most of the stuff that I've known even when I was a kid. I realize that most people don't comprehend because they didn't sit there and go out and learn life. They got cooped up in, TV or video games or, just, in sports. They didn't get out into life. I never got into sports. I never got into, well, of course, Pac-Man was one of mine in the 80s and a couple other things, Centipede. But, of course, I went out and played those in what they call taverns or bars. I went out and socialized with people in the music industry, the rock and roll, and the legal departments back then. I worked in the bar industry back then until until 1992. Basically, off and on for 21 years, I worked in the bar industry.
Get back to point of.
But like I said, this stuff with radiation and all this stuff is known. So the point being is now that it is your responsibility to plant food, your responsibility to grow food and can, your responsibility to teach canning, to know canning. Because if you don't protect yourself, your family first, nobody else is going to protect you. And that's the point when people start coming around and go, I'm hungry, your mother, your brother, or sister, or whatever. Sorry. Didn't you plant food? Didn't you do this? Sorry. We didn't plant food. We don't have the cupboard. Oh, shit. Well, what are you guys going to do? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm not going to sit there and open up my cupboards and all this stuff up to people. They didn't prepare themselves. It's not my responsibility to feed them. It's not my responsibility to take care of them. And don't give me Christianity and, I have to have compassion for somebody else. It doesn't work that way. Because when you are surviving in life and you want to live, it's your life over somebody else. Donner's past proved that one.
Eddie.
Go ahead.
You've covered this. You need to get back on point.
All right, go ahead. I'm going to turn the floor over to you for right now, Dave.
Well, I'm going to turn it back to Michelle so she can finish the conversation with the lady.
Oh, okay.
I would also suggest to Michelle that if she has further questions other than taking up more airtime, that she call Michelle and discuss this.
Producer.
I agree.
Producer.
Go. Yeah?
Michelle's currently not on the board right now. Yes.
Michelle's not on the board? What did she do?
Links, you take it from here.
What, she's not on with us right now?
Yeah, Michelle evidently left. I think they went and did a phone call with each other since somebody was talking a long, long time. So.
Oh, okay. That would have been me, I guess.
Yeah.
You see, Ed, when you cover this stuff in the beginning of the show and then you go back to it again during the show.
No, go ahead.
All right, I believe there is wireless caller. 970.
If I may?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. May I? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Angie. Say, Ed, you brought up something that I have a question about. You talked about cell phone and tracking. What's the proper recourse when you have a very unlawful search on your phone and they show up and actually arrest your child from you during your scheduled weekend? They tracked my phone, found me, and came into the house late at night, taking my little girl, 5 years old, arrested her. That was unlawful. They did not have a signed order. They didn't have cause to track my phone. That's an invasion of privacy and a multitude of other, violations and unlawful practices. So I don't feel that that's ever been something I should just, leave alone. I think it's very wrong. The one Sheriff's Department, Sheridan County Sheriff's Department, involved a second Sheriff's Department. I had no less than 8 of these deputies and sheriffs in the house.
Right, but did you ever get any of their names?
The ones where I was, no.
Because what the point is that it's filing the criminal charges on the men and women that did this, because it's going after them for no warrant, breaking and entering, kidnapping.
Here's another point, Ed. She can get the roster of who's working that shift.
Good point.
And they have to give it to her.
Say that again. Filing a what now? I'm writing this down exactly.
You can contact the sheriff's department, ask them for the names of the employees who were working that shift.
Yes.
Et al. ETAL. Et al.
Right.
And then you can criminally charge the sheriff's department with unlawful search and seizure, breach of public trust, honest service fraud in a criminal complaint, and you can name all the employees who were on duty that night.
Okay.
Oh, and theft of public service and funding.
Theft of public service and funding?
Yeah, because they're paid by tax dollars, and so that's theft of public, that's embezzlement of public funds.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you can also go after the county prosecutor.
Yes, the county state's attorney. That SOB hates me with a passion, and he just hates most people, but especially women. I talked to the sheriff in North Dakota, and I said, look, this is my weekend with my daughter. This is insane. You don't have a signed order. They pinged my phone and involved another department because I wasn't in their jurisdiction at the time, and sent these armed men to take her from me on my weekend because my ex got a bogus order, ex parte order. So what would be my proper steps? A criminal complaint, and would I do like a full-on affidavit? And if so, where do I properly file this?
Let's see.
I can barely hear you there, David.
This was in a local state court, right, that all this happened?
In North Dakota. I'm in Colorado now. It was North Dakota, but there was no court order for a warrant or nothing like that.
Right.
There was no warrant. There was nothing.
There again, I would file with the Inspector General's office in your state.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
a copy to the Supreme Court of your state.
Okay. Yeah, they don't like me either.
Because what you're doing is, it says you must file a complaint, criminal complaint, with the nearest court of law. So you want to bypass, since your court locally is prejudiced, you want to go to the Supreme Court of your state.
Oh, they're prejudiced too. I'm suing all 5 of them in my other claims.
Sure they are. The Supreme Court ruled all courts are crooked.
Yeah, they're the ones that I'm up against with my deal. Is all 5 of the Supreme Court judges of North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
I have 8 judges in that. I have their clerks because of what they've done, and then I also have the Burleigh County State's Attorney and the Attorney General.
Okay.
So you say I would see. I'm in Colorado. That all happened in North Dakota. So I file. You still want me to file this with the State Inspector General of North Dakota?
Well, so you're a resident of that state, right?
I have an address there. I'm a resident. I reside or domicile in Colorado, not North Dakota.
So they a foreign state, foreign corporation invaded your privacy.
Yes. So you said the State Inspector General. Which state in North Dakota? Because that's who spurred the crimes into motion.
Was that where it happened in North Dakota?
they were the first sheriff's department on, and then they, because I was actually out of state at that time, they contacted the local sheriff's department where I was there, which was in South Dakota. We went to South Dakota for the weekend for the last hurrah was Labor Day weekend. So we went and helped out at a ranch moving cattle.
Well, I'll tell you what, to cover yourself, file in both states.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Both state Supreme Court?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And is that just to kind of notice, let them know, be aware, or?
You just serve them.
And what is the purpose of serving the Supreme Court, especially the one I'm suing?
Well, that lets them know you're taking further steps.
Okay. But not one of them can actually touch it because I'm suing them, correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But you're putting them on judicial notice that, hey, you violated the law again. Here you go.
That's right. So they're going to have to bring in the federal Supreme Court over it.
Yep.
Okay. And then I did, like another gentleman tonight mentioned about trying with the Inspector General, Office of the Inspector General, and I was ignored too each time.
Well, but you want to keep filing the paperwork into those offices to prove bias and prejudice.
Right. Okay.
It adds strength to your case against them.
Yes. Well, I've wondered is there a statute of limitations as far as me doing that? Because that might have...
No.
Okay.
They committed fraud against you. There's no statute of limitation on fraud.
That's what I thought. They kept... Well, in the past I was told that there's a statute, and I said, no, not on this.
Not when you commit fraud against me. Violation of due process, yeah.
Okay. All right, I will.
There's a form I think there's a form on New Oregon Trackers for violation of due process you could fill out.
Mm-hmm.
Due process. Really, any idea how far back I have to go look?
Tell you the truth, no, and we'll get the federal forms up too here pretty soon.
Awesome.
I wrote this form based on the fact that the current violation of due process on file with the IRS, okay, didn't cover fraud upon the court. And so I wrote one and sent it into Congress and told them I wanted the legislation passed on it because we the people have the right to alter and abolish any law. So far I've been ignored, but I'm not giving up on it. I will address the issue again.
I have another topic I would like to present to you guys. Completely different topic. The ranch owner here, he's a fifth generation rancher here. Went to the bank many years ago while his father was alive and took out a loan for almost $1 million to save his father from the ranch from foreclosure. He worked the ranch, his father did not. And his father now has passed away. The father's will and trust stated oddball things and one did not say the same thing as the other. Long story short, the granddaughter, this man's daughter, she was given the opportunity to terminate Ty's life estate to the ranch. And she now has, last September, being a spoiled little brat of 22, through the encouragement of her nasty mother, has done exactly that, and they are trying to take the ranch from him, and so far are succeeding. He is in jeopardy, very real jeopardy, of losing the only place he's ever worked, the only place he's ever lived and known, to this little brat who's never put a minute into the ranch. What can he do to protect his home? His homestead.
What did you say his relationship, that was his dad?
Yes.
And the
his
will
dad's will.
stated it went to him?
It was supposed to go to him, naming him as the beneficiary. She was supposed to benefit from his passing, the father, and she was supposed to benefit from the ranch of his passing. Well, she's making all these bogus allegations that he's not running the ranch right. Her attorney's a nightmare. And that he is in default. He's never done a thing wrong. He's the only reason this ranch is still alive, that it's still going. It's hanging by a thread, but he works his butt off. He does it alone. And she's very, very close to closing down and getting him removed from his home and his ranch, his work. And I've been looking for what to do to help save it.
It's hard for me to make a decision not seeing the will and see the wording on the will. I can't, I really don't want to make...
The will gave her the option to terminate his life estate or whatever. She made a motion in court and all this. She's going through all the motions to terminate his life estate to the ranch.
Yeah, but did he respond back?
Yep.
By himself, or did he have an attorney do it?
Himself. For a very long time, it was himself. He did have an attorney, and they were worthless, of course. And now he's back to himself again. The judge totally screwed up, of course. He has evidence you would not believe in his favor. They're saying that the $750,000 he took out to remove the ranch from foreclosure and to protect his father in all of this was taken out for personal. It was not. He can show where every single penny went of that loan. He took out a loan from the bank to take his dad and the ranch out of foreclosure years back. It was always known, his mother knows, everybody knows, that the ranch was to be left to him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was, except there are these contingencies. And the daughter can request to terminate his life estate to the ranch, and that's what she has done.
Well, the one thing I like to add real quick is that the one thing is I know there's a lady, Michelle, she's already done this with a couple other people. She does have a concept, but better than, especially better than I do on this one. But the one thing I do have to agree with Dave is that you have to read the terms of the structure to know what's going on. Without that, you're dealing with hearsay.
Okay. I would give anybody any paper they wanted. He's a fifth-generation rancher, and he's in very real danger of losing his home, his work, his whole life, everything.
So you have a copy of the will?
Yes, he does. We do.
Okay.
I've gone through it with him over and over and over since last September with a fine-tooth comb fighting this.
Okay.
I have been doing my best to research lawfully and respond. We've always responded. And now they've appointed a special administrator that's completely biased and insane.
Let me ask you a question. Did you do this in form of an affidavit?
I heard something about an affidavit. That was all. I can't really hear you.
I say, did you do your rebuttal in the form of an affidavit?
Yes.
Good. And they not rebut it?
We've fought. Yeah, I can't hear you very good.
Okay. Well, in other words, did they respond to the affidavit?
Oh yeah, they say we're all full of it, and they're the ones that don't have a damn clue.
No, but did you respond back to their response?
Yes, we have responded and responded and responded. I was pretty vehement about not letting anything of their errors remain sitting there open on the record.
Right. Good for you.
So we have gone round and round and round, again, being presenting ourselves, and I've helped I mean, I've been doing all the research and stuff on this for a long time. This fell into her lap last September.
So this is in probate court?
Yes. I'm a little confused. It's a district probate court. It's here. We kind of studied up on removal to formal probate, and supposedly if you responded, that's where it landed then. So we did that. This judge is a prick, and so is they appointed a special administrator claiming that Ty, the ranch owner, who should be the ranch owner, that he has abused, well, I just can't think of the terminology, but that he isn't doing his job here. Going for him working, this place would have foreclosed a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Here's a new twist I'd like you to try.
Okay.
Whereas he has bailed the ranch out, and she now wants to claim the ranch, send her a true bill and invoice for the entire amount of the expense.
To who?
To the daughter.
Yeah, the cost of the labor and everything he's done on it is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Do you comprehend what he's meaning?
To the daughter. Okay. I'm writing all this down.
That means his labor, his hourly, his time for working with the animals, hay, gathering food for the animals, feeding them.
Okay, you want the ranch, but this is what it's going to cost you.
Well, yeah, he's 50, and this is the only place he's ever...
You didn't hear the point he was saying.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yep, that makes sense. I know that when he did have an attorney, that they did do a, not exactly positive, a claim, or they submitted basically a bill for a few $1 million. I want to say like $3 million. They billed her. So that's out there. However, seems to have been ignored, and now his attorney he had bailed. Not understanding ranch life and how busy we are right now. So they did do some kind of an ordeal. I'd have to ask him to see it because I haven't seen that paperwork. But they did that, but it wasn't for nearly enough. His father didn't even work the last several years of his life. It was Ty. Paid all the bills. Kept the lights on and the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, Dave just brought up one of the simple solutions.
Okay. And just get that over to her. Just bill her for... That's basically what they did in that $3 million. I just don't think that was enough.
It doesn't matter what you think is enough. It depends if that is worth the structure of his labor.
Right, that's what I mean. Is I don't think it actually covers it. He's worked his whole life here. He's never been anywhere else. He's paid all the taxes. He's paid all the everything, all the fees, everything. She's never worked 1 minute here. So... But we've been studying on that. So if you know anybody in that area, good in that stuff, I would gladly like to continue learning so that maybe I could help.
Well, that's the one thing that, Michelle has a little concept on that with the land deal. Like I said, she's done this with a few other people, too.
Okay.
And I didn't mean to, apparently I don't know what happened to her. She's not online, so...
Well, it sounds to me like this is a typical attempt at land theft.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Yes. You hit that on the head. Exactly.
And land theft is punishable by death.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, and if any horses were involved, they're punishable by death. A horse thief could still be hung.
Right. Unfortunately, they won't do it, but yeah. Yeah. I'll have to reach out to Michelle and see if she can. I said, if anybody wants to read the papers, I will definitely get them to you. So that's not an issue. I can email them. They're all scanned and ready. They're trying to kick him out right now. This started last September, at the same time the Beaver Creek fire was going on in our backyard, mind you. That wildfire that burned over 30,000 acres was literally in our backyard. You know. Then we get this bombshell dropped on us. So.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the criminally charged, the sheriff and deputies for all of their wrongdoings. I'll look for your violations of due process. You said that's on the Facebook page, New Oregon Trackers, or that's on the website?
It's on Facebook. New Oregon Trackers on Facebook.
Okay, I will look there for that. I want to make sure it's going to the right area. And I wouldn't do that in a federal court. I just send that to the office of the State Inspector General and also to the North Dakota State Supreme Court, but not to the federal court at all?
First of all, you go into the state using state statute. Okay?
Okay.
And if that fails, then you can bump it up through the Court of Appeals to the federal level.
Okay. All right. I will start at...
and since you have a case against the Supreme Court justice and judges, you can foreclose. You can skip that, and go directly to the federal level.
Okay, because I've already got them involved in my other case.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So go ahead and take this to the federal court.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of their cover sheet if they have.
You want to make sure you name yourself as the injured party corpus delicti.
Corpus delicti. Okay.
Because without a corpus delicti, there is no crime.
That's right, and you always have to put corpus delicti. If you don't, there is no crime that they've stated.
Are you kidding me? That's not on my last paperwork. Corpus delicti?
Mm-hmm.
And
the Supreme Court ruled that if there is no corpus delicti, there is no crime.
What is a breach of the law?
Party. The physical person.
Not person, the physical man or woman. Person is an inanimate object.
Yes, this says a Latin term meaning the body of the crime that refers to the idea that the requisite elements of a crime must be proven before an individual can be tried for the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just got confused because that doesn't sound like they are guilty then by chance. It sounds like it says the body of the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain this?
Well, if they filed a fraudulent document into court or a document based on fraud, a false claim, you could also get them under the False Claims Act.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they most certainly did, because later they ended up filing their page, and it was junk.
And then the other point is that to know what the judge and these other attorneys' personal backgrounds are.
Yeah,
if your judge in the case, is traded on Dun & Bradstreet, Wall Street.
Yep.
And if he is, that's a conflict of interest. He's running a pseudo corporate court.
Right.
He has no jurisdiction.
Yeah, I've gone around and around with him for years.
That judge cannot make an order.
No, this SOB can't do anything he's doing. I've been studying and fighting this for years. This started in 2011. I started studying in 2012 because things were so insane.
Right.
And it's like, what in the heck? And whatever the X files, he gets lock, stock, and barrel. Doesn't matter. The judge, after I served him my claim against him, he, and I mean lawfully, he files an order saying I can't file in any district court in North Dakota.
Bullshit.
He can't do that.
Right. The minute he does that, that's a violation of his oath.
That's right. And then you need a file on that. That's called treason. He just committed treason against the state.
That's right. Boy, he committed treason against the court.
Yeah, fraud upon the court, too.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, he don't like me because I've been studying. That's all I used to do. I didn't have a life at all. Treason against the court and fraud upon the court. Yeah, I kindly told him those things. Of course, he won't let me in court. He won't let me file. So I went to the county where I was residing, which was Ward County or McHenry County, and I went there. Judge Geiger was there, and I filed my paperwork there. Judge responded with an order saying, you cannot file because Judge Reich says you cannot file in any district court.
Then you have to respond back to the other judge saying, oh, so are you refusing to honor your oath of servitude? And if so, then I need to know this, so I have to file on you.
Right. So
okay, because you have to respond back to him in those things. Okay. That's the point that, and trust me, I've been through the hard knocks. So has other folks that have been through this with us, and Dave. We all been through hard knocks, and we are learning the procedure. That's why we're giving the knowledge out. That's why Michelle keeps strongly suggesting that people read the administrative rules, so then that way it can be done by their circumstances. But I don't agree with half their circumstances, but for their circumstances, I can see part of the point.
A judge cannot go beyond what jurisdiction he has, and once he says you can't do this in other courts, that's beyond his jurisdiction.
Right. And so I went round and round with them and everything. I tried to file stuff in the clerk and recorder's office just to have it on file there. They refused that. They said, nope, they won't let me file. I saw an email that he had an administrator lady there, court administrator, saying how I was blocked from filing at any district court. So he
and we could file, and I have a deal that you could file on the court clerk on that you file that with Washington, D.C., she could go to prison.
Yep. And then I even put it in the paper for 3 weeks. I put it in the Friday local paper that I had a claim against that judge. I ran that in the paper for 3 weeks. So, I've been vocal. I have fought my tail off. You name it. And this SOB, and so I even filed this with the Supreme Court, the North Dakota Supreme Court. They said, you can't file. No, I have to ask the judges. I said, no, you don't work for the judge. I said, you work for me. You are a public servant.
Bingo.
And I went round and round with her. I kept telling her how she was employed by us, not them judges, and what her job was. And I have it recorded, audio recorded. She would not file my paperwork, and I had her stamp it, and I said, okay, I want to see you stamp it. She's like, well, I can stamp it received. I'm like, received is filed, so whatever.
Right.
It's not filed. I went round and round. She's like, well, received is not filed. I said, no, received is filed. You have it. It's in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't let me in, not even the North Dakota Supreme Court. And they have no reason to do what they're doing, other than
that's
totally
violation of due process.
Violation of process? Is that what you said?
Violation of due process.
Oh, yes. That's and so that is the claim that I submitted to the federal court.
Yep.
And involving those 8 judges, the North Dakota Attorney General, the Burleigh County State's Attorney. That is what I filed.
What federal court did you file in? Are you sure you didn't file into federal district court? Did you file in that state, or did you file in Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia?
That is in that state, yes.
So I didn't. So Philadelphia is the only lawful court. Washington, D.C. Supreme Court supersedes all the courts.
Okay. Well, what
so
I
what you want to
filed...
do is dismiss your case with the court you filed into and go into the, what are you talking about, Ed? Court of Claims?
Yeah, you could do that in Court of Claims, too.
Court of Claims, where am I going to find the Court of Claims?
Court of Claims is in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So you're taking it out of their jurisdiction that they're going to be freaked about because they can't kiss each other's ass this way.
Right. Well, Michelle was very elated that they accepted my case and that nobody replied. She could not believe that not one of them judges or clerks or anybody replied.
Oh yeah, no, they want to accept it, but they're trying to put it up for a time lapse. Do you comprehend what I mean?
They moved it forward today, so they said you didn't respond in time.
What's that, hon?
Are you the one where they moved the time, the date up, so that they can say you didn't respond in time?
No. We were talking earlier about my case about the fact that they did not respond. Not one of them responded, and now they're in default.
Yep, you're right. Default, right. So you can go into the U.S. Court of Claims, file your paperwork in there, show the original court case, and say they failed to defend. Therefore they're in default and demand a default judgment.
Call of judgments are okay. Oh my gosh, this is confusing. This is great, and it's against all those judges and all those clerks that were doing what the judges told them.
From the very beginning, from the very beginning of it, all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I have a hard time hearing you. From the very beginning. Well, this part. This was just about what that judge did wrong in that one instance, basically.
Right. Yeah, you can, if you want to take it that way, just go against the judges, sure.
No, I don't. I'll go whatever's the best route. I'm just saying what I did do. This is all great.
What they're doing is they're throwing your stuff out of court without due process of law, and the process obstructing justice in the matter, fraud upon the court. Therefore, hey, I demanded the default judgment.
Okay. How do I get my daughter home? Doing all this is great. Going against those judges is great. I have no problem. I've made videos. I've been walked on Facebook. I sent the judge my videos, my photos. I have a black Chevy Equinox SUV, and I bought these special window markers. I write on my windows about the corruption, and I go park in front of the Supreme Court Capitol. I've been very vocal.
Good.
It got to be where it was very unsafe in North Dakota, and that was part of the reason.
You mark it as claim number 1, claim number 2, claim number 3, claim number 4.
Claim and then exhibit.
Your state claim.
Mm-hmm.
How far back do I try to go? Because, like I said, this started in 2011.
Well, you go back from the beginning. It's fraud ab initio all the way from the beginning.
Oh my gosh, that'd be a huge file. How do I get my girl?
Hi, May.
Go ahead.
You know, we encourage, people to file certain documents, and you're not the only one that has come to us and say, how can I get my child back? And we've done it live on air so many times.
Actually, You charge the judge, sheriff, and Children's Protection with child trafficking.
Awesome. Okay.
Crimes against humanity.
Okay. And which court will I be filing this? Is this the D.C. then?
Federal.
Or the... No.
Federal.
Okay.
Yep, Court of Claims.
The state... The federal court is the court of claims?
Yeah, the U.S. Court of Claims, federal claims.
And is that the North Dakota federal court then?
It's the only constitutional court we got in the United States.
The federal court, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that would be where my case is currently, that one that I just sent the paperwork to today, saying my notice for final judgment. So do I open a new case?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. And on the form, is it the AO like 40 or 44, the crud, what is that first form that you're supposed to say like what the issue is?
I'll tell you what, go into the U.S. Court of Claims and get their paperwork.
Okay, U.S. Court of Claims. I don't think that or so I sure will.
It's yeah, I'm thinking it's U.S. Court of Claims, U.S. Court of Federal Claims.
Oh, okay. Okay, U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Here we go. And they'll have. Okay, I've never heard of that. I apologize. I've never heard it termed that way, or not sure.
Yeah, but go in there and get their rules of court, get their local rules, and get their paperwork.
I sure will. Thank you.
What they're doing to you is injustice. It's not justice.
Oh no!
They're trying to block everything. Your opportunity to defend yourself.
Oh, they have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's time to get into it.
And I mean, I fought like a son of a gun. Okay, so this U.S. Court of Claims is the one Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, I will.
And I'm putting an educational video up on your Facebook site right now from Rob Ryder.
Okay.
Case dismissed. Rob Ryder, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his videos, but I've been paying attention to Rob for the last few years. And he does excellent explanation of video, and so does another gentleman called True Freeman.
Oh, I have seen some of True Freeman's videos, just here and there. Where we live, because of our internet, it takes me about 3 hours to watch a 20-minute video. So,
wow.
Okay.
It makes it a little tough. So, yeah, it takes a while to try and get downloaded and kicked off, and yeah. Okay, I will do this. And I guess I'm going to ask a dumb question. I have the right to take my case, this judge, sheriff, children, CPS, children trafficking, to this U.S. Federal Court of Claims in Washington, D.C.?
That's right.
Okay. And how? I guess I'm curious.
It was a made up document that they kidnapped your child under.
Yes.
It was improper service. There was no grand jury indictment.
It was ex parte. He wrote down some stuff that she cried when leaving me, and so the judge took her away from me, and it's been 2 years. I see my daughter once a month for 2 hours in North Dakota. I drive 13 hours.
She cried because they took her away from you, and the judge issued an order against you?
Yeah. And I have amazing reports of why she would fight and cling to me. I have amazing reports in my favor. The judge will look at nothing that I put on that record. Nothing. That SOB. I sat in court, and I was there for...
The judge gets $150,000 for every child he takes out of the home. and the social worker gets $7,500. That's conflict of interest.
Yeah, and that's what Clinton passed in 1997. He signed that bill to pay them this. This was under the Safe Children's Act.
Okay.
And you have to remember that the Chelsea Clinton Foundation gets these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have any of this info that you're willing to share, I'm sure willing to read it and pass it on as well.
I want you to go to this blog spot.
Okay.
It's Winona 1010.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was that last name or whatnot? The second name?
Yeah, it's Winona, W-I-O-N, let's see, W-I-N-O-N-A.
Okay.
1010.
1010, like the number 1010?
Yeah, 1010.
And is it spelled out or numeral?
Yeah, number 10.
Yeah, 1010.
Okay, gotcha.
At
all right.
Blogspot, B-L-O-G, at blogspot.com. Look at that website and read all the information that's in there.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, I got to go to that because we got to put some of that up.
You got to put that whole website up.
Well, I want to get the whole website up, but I want to put some of that up so people can see what the judges are getting and realize that this stuff goes back to the Clintons when they did this.
Yeah,
I have
and that
heard
was conflict of interest on the Clintons because of the
Mm-hmm.
Clinton Chelsea Foundation, which deals in children trafficking.
Mm-hmm. And he is telling you the truth when this stuff goes through the Chelsea Foundation, because this is part of the structure where Chelsea's Foundation was founded.
And then when they get paid, then they or shall I say, reward the counties where the children have come from with special financial gain.
Right, I've heard that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've gone round and round with these people. I have fought my
Bribery.
tail off.
That's bribery.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. I looked up this Winona 1010 at blogspot.com, and it just says fight CPS with numbers.
Yep.
Okay.
You just open that up.
Okay, yeah, it now came up. It just, sorry.
Yeah, and then we got another one right below it, too, Fighting Family Support Group.
No, it says fight CPS with numbers, legal notice for administrative hearing. And I guess I would have a question regarding administrative hearings, because I've heard that's where you go for remedy, and then I've heard that's the devil, so I don't know which is which.
People are getting their children back by following those instructions on that website.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. See, mine isn't a CPS case. That's the problem. Mine is family court corruption.
That's fine, but
it's the same thing.
Okay. Okay. Because mine is my ex being a prick. I mean, nothing else. It's nothing I've ever done. He was never involved with her. He just said if we ever got divorced, he'd do all he could to take my kids. Well, he couldn't touch my elder ones. They're not his. But he took my baby.
If I may.
And it's killing her.
I would file him with False Claims Act.
Okay.
I would file against your husband for False Claims Act. Make him prove his allegation.
Oh. Under the False Claims Act, file against him directly or him and his attorney?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
Okay. Against him and his attorney?
Yes. And not only that, if they lied under oath and put anything as an affidavit under oath, if they lied in an affidavit, they are liable.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Huge. Huge.
But see, you have to realize that it has to be proven beyond the shadow of a doubt.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, I'm just letting you know because I mean this is why people get afraid of this structure because basically, it comes down to it's not a game, but it's a dangerous structure. Oh, I guess I posted too much again. Facebook's telling me if I post again, I'll be blocked.
Are you kidding? They don't warn me.
So, all right, anyhow, let's get on. Let's get a couple other, anybody else got questions? Let's open up the floor for anybody else. We've been hitting this. We only got a little time left of the show, and we should open up the floor, no offense.
I've got a chance to talk, so I got to move on.
So, go ahead.
Hi, is it Ronald Fern from Oregon?
Hey, Ronald, go ahead.
Well, how is everyone tonight?
We're doing. What's your question?
My question is multi. Trying to narrow it all down from just what few topics I heard come up. Hear how you say they can't do this and they can't do that. We can do this, we can do that. It'd be nice to hear slow and methodically said. This is just a comment. The case name, case number, where one could go and pull up some of the filings in that case, see how it was done. Maybe knowing that I would like to take on that task, but having not done it precisely, that would know the rules of court or the rules of procedure. But I've heard a lot of interesting, meritable points, of course. But what I haven't heard yet, is the idea of the 14th Amendment, citizen/person. It seems in any and all of this, as I've said, and those that oppose it, only do so because they choose to recognize these commercial courts under admiralty, maritime, martial rule, all for all the reasons that have been disclosed in this call, this short call. But it's what I've learned, and that is, what are my rights? And there are various ways in which to say that without just asking a question. But simply enough, I feel from my own experience that question, cognitively asked, requests an answer, and when these wise, witty, great and wonderful shysters of the bar, self-praised maniacs of terror, what rights do I have, Mr. Attorney? And are these rights so with the standing of the 14th Amendment, citizen/person?
Well, I don't know who you're calling Mr. Attorney, but we don't know any attorneys.
Well, the attorneys that run the courts. You or I aren't running the courts. I know that. You must be a member of the bar.
No, we're not. I don't know where you come up with that craziness.
What, the court?
We are not attorneys.
The court, do we know them today? You're trying to allege that they're not run by attorneys and only attorneys?
They are, but you were implying that we were attorneys.
No, I wasn't implying that.
Okay, Ron, you always had me worried there for a minute, and I'm going to give you the answer on the 14th Amendment here in a minute so it comes up, but...
Yeah, well, but I haven't heard anybody raise that question, to establish what rights one has in that so-called venue that you all know so well is a maritime admiralty tribunal going on there with some commercial and some equity and basically some debt collecting going on through false premise, a faulty notice, whatever else you can call it, supported by, as David brought out, some Supreme Court case law that doesn't recognize a corpus delicti. And what is Black's Law's definition, gentlemen, for the word corpus delicti? I didn't hear that given. I think somebody made an attempt to define the word, but I didn't recall the direct definition from the blacks.
I think it basically says it's the injured party, the body. What's the word for it? Body something.
Okay, so corpus delicti then being a real injury suffered by a real man or woman.
Right. So
is that correct?
Because the Supreme Court ruled, you can be an injured party, but if you don't include the corpus delicti, the injured party itself, then there is no crime, there is no harm, no foul, upon which relief can be granted. So if you go into court as the corpus delicti, or injured party corpus delicti, I think it's 18 U.S.C. 3771.
Okay, yeah, so it's been so long that I've sat here and waited. The point of the question exactly asked, it's short, concise, words has surpassed me now. I'm in the store getting a couple of
go on the web and you can do research on a certain type of court case, and there are court cases after court cases that pop up. Copper Cards is another website you can go to for...
Can we mute that right now while Dave's talking, please? Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, Copper Cards is another website you can go to for court cases. What can I think of the name of this? Every state has this. Styles Manual in your state. That also has court cases assigned to various topics. So you can get all kind of information from various websites on court cases that have been filed and won, just depending on what kind of case it is. You Google the kind of case you're looking for, and there'll be tons of information come up on it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do research and get into those court cases, I would start with your Styles Manual in your state and see what the different topics are and what court cases they have listed, because those are key case court cases you can list in your documents when you file a legal action.
Got the answer there the best you could. Next caller.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, this is Daniel. Getting back to Angela, we're up the same creek if we're not rowing the same boat. North Dakota, like West Virginia, has what I call a half and a half court. The Supreme Court of Appeals is the administrator for the circuit court, and there's only the two levels. So you're really going before one court, and when you appeal, you're appealing to the administrator of the same court that you was already in. And in my case, what they did was the writ of mandamus, they simply refused it without findings of fact or conclusions of law. The clerk signed and refused it, the writ of mandamus, with 11 challenges of jurisdiction and 12 violations of due process of law. He simply refused it without findings of fact and conclusions of law. And so, and when it went into the 4th District Court, which is the federal district court here, they simply removed all the evidence from the case, said the case was frivolous without the evidence. But there's only one court in West Virginia, just like there is in North Dakota. There's a circuit court, and the next level is the Supreme Court of Appeals, which is the administrator of the circuit court. And I yield.
And that goes to show you the crookedness of the court and the conflict of interest.
Yeah, and we do have a template, I think it might be on the website, that you can file on the clerk of the court. And when you file on the clerk of the court, that has to be filed with the clerk of that county, registered in that county, and filed in Washington, D.C. Superior Court. So then that way that could be legally done. Because you just don't file it in the court or with your local judges or anything like that, because they all sleep in the same bed, some literally. So you don't do that. You make sure that when you do file those things, it goes to the federal court, the federal Supreme Court. So do we have any other questions?
I'll unmute the one gentleman real quick, and let's see.
Okay.
If you go to the clerk of this court and attempt to file anything, she runs to the judge's office.
Well, we know that. Dan,
consent.
hang on a minute, Daniel. Let's get the other guy, and you send me your email. I'll get you that filing. Let this other gentleman speak up, and then we'll come right back to you. Okay?
Okay, no problem.
This Daniel guy is the last one on the Q&A session, and we're almost at...
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know. Duh. Okay, Daniel, come back. I didn't realize that it was you that one.
Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to say, Ed, is there's only one court here. When you appeal, you're appealing to the same court you came
right,
out
but that's
of.
what I've been telling you, is you take it to the Washington, D.C. court or the one in Philadelphia.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to have to do.
You either go to U.S. Court of Claims or you go directly into the Supreme Court of the United States.
And this is where, even with your traveling cases, even with your dog cases, and your children cases, you take it out of these courts here. These are maritime courts. Strictly, they're maritime courts. They run in the structure under maritime law. This is what they say, I have the authority over your lives. Now, here's the point that I was bringing up for Ron. All right, the federal Constitution makes a careful distinction between natural-born citizens. I don't like the word citizens, but they're using the word citizen back basically in the 1700s, that they brought that word from the devil's house called the Vatican in England. Because citizen, if the terminology of citizen means that you are under Caesar or under the Roman Catholic Church or under democracy. All right, natural born, I should say, and that's part of what we go by as lawful bloodline Americans, because you have to prove that. The Supreme Court says that. Compared to citizens of the United States. Okay, that's United States Inc. That's immigration. That's legal immigration, not illegal, because there is no amnesty for illegals. The Democrats created that, called Obama. And this goes compared to 2.15 with Section 1 of the Constitution. And this goes also to of the so-called 14th Amendment. If you actually read the 14th Amendment, which most people don't read it, they assume, and one is unconstitutional, sovereign by natural birth. Okay? And it's supposed to be born because birth is the ship. And that's what they're saying on the birth. So if you're birthed here, you don't have rights. If you're born, go ahead.
That's the fraud by trickery, is what is your birthday?
Yeah, and when anybody asks you your birthday, you tell them I'm not a shit. I do it all the time when I go to the hospital and they deal with doctors. Now most of them go, Ed, when were you born again for our records? And this is the point, is bringing it out so that way they start speaking it and they know the separation of legal and lawful, because if we don't do this and educate the people involved.
Correct.
Because the 14th Amendment, and this is where people say, oh, the 14th Amendment gave and I've been on talk shows and I've had guys that tell me the 14th Amendment gave immigration more rights than us. And I'm like, no. It clarified that if you were natural, native, lawful blood, compared to immigrant, it defined the immigration standards back then. And that's where people have got to realize either you're lawful or you're legal. Legal is British law. Lawful is Constitution. And Constitution is our republic form of government. A citizen is of the democracy, legislative democracy of the federal zone as a British subject. And I do clarify that, and I have it with our letter that we put out every week, too.
Yes.
Yeah, and so this is the point. Go ahead, Dave.
So in the court, you want to ask the judge, what law are you practicing?
Yes, that is a good point. And you want to put it in writing before you get to court, too. You could put it in your affidavits. What law is he practicing? What law is he going by? What jurisdiction is he claiming for the court? Go ahead, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off if I did.
It's fine. The letter that I wrote to the crook of the court in the U.S. Court of Claims is posted on our web pages, and people need to read that so that they could get a comprehension of the fraud by trickery that courts are using against you to place you under fraudulent jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
The jurisdiction of the court is established by law, and it should be posted on every web page of their court. The jurisdiction of this court is, and if they don't have that jurisdiction that you're after, you don't have the right to file in that court. It's not that you give the court jurisdiction, it's that the court has the jurisdiction in the first place. And if you read the document that I have in there, you will find out how you need to word before you file your case. You print the same letter to the crook of the court in these federal courts. Especially if you're going in form of paupers, that's a dischargeable debt under HJR 192.
Yes, and I've been putting that up. I've even served electricity companies in Oregon, the PUC on it and stuff like that, what I've been putting up on our sites, and you could use that information.
It is 10 until 8, so I'm going to end Q&A and go into lecture, and you guys can do your closing comments.
Q&A session is over.
Well, I'll end with me, and then I'll give the floor over to Dave and let Dave definitely have the last word because he needs that. It's his turn. Anyhow, I want to thank everybody for joining us with the questions and the information. Remember, pass this evidence and the site along for this way others could educate ourselves as well as we educate each other because it takes us to educate each other. We've been through hard knocks. And without us learning hard knocks and bringing it to the table with everybody else who are going through it, who have not been there themselves, who are going through it themselves, so this way they quit mentally beating themselves up and realizing how it works. We know, and you can always say, yes, I know they can't do this. Yes, I know they can't do that. How about start saying, I can do this. I can file on the judge. I can file on the cop. I can file on the clerk. I can make their life a living hell and go after their job, their pension, their assets. Start looking at their assets, their pension, their job. When they offend you, assault you, you have the right to go after their assets. And trust me, I know the House and Senate passed rules. They're telling police officers and public servants like caseworkers, make sure that your assets are put into other people's names that you can trust so you can't be sued. They are saying that to people literally today. So it's up to us to start doing this, filing on them, putting the process, when we start getting the process down, and it is working, is working for each other and getting it out to work with each other. If we don't do that, nobody else is going to do that. And with that, I'd like to say, may the Great Spirit bless you, travel, and also to focus on your filing, and don't argue. That's the whole point about educating each other. If we don't educate each other, none of it works.
The thing I would like to add to what Ed has already said, and again, I thank you for joining us tonight. When you file paperwork into court, you need to ask them what law they are practicing against you. Are they committing color of law fraud, meaning are they flying gold fringe flags against you in that court? And if this is a state court and they're under military jurisdiction, that is color of law fraud. Okay, because the judge takes an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution, and the military does take that, but when they're flying a gold fringe flag in that courtroom, that means the military are in charge of the government, which means that court has no jurisdiction. JAG Corps does.
And you can always ask them, you need to speak to a general or a colonel.
That's right. I want a military JAG officer in this courtroom right now.
You know, it is learning the process as we're all learning it, so this way we all comprehend it so the children get to know what it is compared to what they're led to believe.
And the minute the JAG officer comes in, you read to him Dwight David Eisenhower's Executive Order 10834, you immediately place the judge under arrest.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is Toasted Revolution News and Information. Production tonight was brought to you by Links. This is the disclaimers with David Ed Johnston. It is 7:53 p.m. on the Pacific Coast, and it is 6/26/2017. Thank you. Good night.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Awesome show.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.